everything's a touchscreen, right?
No, it's not.
Should be. The Pharaoh.
Feral.
Sunrise Pharaoh. I don't know.
What is it?
Okay.
That might go in the very end. My ankle went like that just a little bit because I'm very
No. Don't be.
You were an only child.
I was an only child.
How was that?
You know, I don't want to say like it was a lonely existence, but it was and it wasn't. Like it was also like the best thing that in retrospect that could have ever happened,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to all the only kids out there. We don't have to share. We don't have to share anything. It's all our stuff. Nobody touches it, you know. But you have your own room.
What is that like?
I know.
Goodness gracious.
I remember when I was little and like my little cousins would come and they'd touch everything I had. Like, oh man, it drives you nuts. You're just like, like stop touching me.
So you had a more adult mindset, or you liked hanging out with adults more than kids your own age?
I did. Like I was telling you earlier, I felt like I was like one day old going on 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I know people call it like an older soul,
Mm-hmm.
but I really do feel like I had an older soul.
We can tell. The world can tell. Anyone that knows you, I feel, can kind of tell that you are.
I feel like I'm like 1,000 years. I'm 1,000 years
you've
old.
been around this planet quite a few times. You've got some good life experience under your belt, and
I'm tired.
I know, sweetheart. I know you're tired. I'm sorry.
No, you know, I grew up with some kids in the neighborhood, and it's the old thing. Like, I know if everybody goes on TikTok now and they like have the older people on TikTok, and they're like, you know, the street lights came on. That was your clue to be in the vicinity of your home. You were now playing in front of your house.
Yes.
Or you had to be home by that point. And that's how it was growing up in the 80s and even halfway into the 90s.
Yeah, I grew up like that.
Yeah, halfway into the 90s. Well, there are a couple things that were going on in the 90s that as like a 13, 14, 15-year-old, you start to understand.
Right, and as a 5, 6, and 7-year-old, had no clue what was going on.
Like, what's going on. Yeah, in the 80s, man, we used to be, you know, we used to go outside and play in this
the beautiful feral place. That's why all of you grew up to be.
Yeah, we drank from the hose. We were outside from the time that we got up, and we could, you know, everybody got outside to play till like 7 o'clock at night. I remember these cool summer nights, and I envisioned this, and I obviously wouldn't try this anymore as an adult, but as a kid, you used to lay down on the sidewalk because it was still warm from the sun, and just like look up at the stars, and just, you know, just there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that when you're an adult. You know, you had no cares in the world.
Let's go do it.
It's dirty.
See? We're still, we have laid a blanket out in the backyard and looked up at the stars. Yeah. I think there was a meteor shower or something like that.
Oh, we did. No, we went up to Arrowhead.
We did do it back here, though.
Did we?
Yeah, we did it once, and we saw like 1 or 2 like little itty bitty streaks, and then we were like, okay, our back hurts. We went back inside. So you grew up in Long Beach, 80s and 90s kid. Hardcore. Only child, super hood, super hardcore.
Super hardcore, you know.
But with being an only child, I have noticed, I mean, and I have friends that are only children, there comes a vivid imagination.
Absolutely.
There comes maybe a little bit of mischievousness. Did you ever feel the need, though, to stand out or to perform or to do anything that wasn't necessarily competitive, you know, with siblings or friends, but just to do it for yourself?
No. I was an extremely shy child. I was extremely withdrawn, like in I know it seems kind of weird if some people have met me and I'm kind of like out and like very, very friendly. But as a child, I remember being very shy and very withdrawn. And I remember my parents, my mom, actually took me to an agent, to a commercial agent, and wanted me to start that path. And I was so shy and like reserved that they're like,
no way.
No,
camera work was not for you.
Like,
look where we are today.
Like
Isn't
in
that
front
weird?
of the camera was not for me, no. And I remember that. And but I did perform. I did do plays later on. I was in orchestra, starting in like, I think 90, maybe, like 91.
Okay. So you would have been like 10 or 11.
10. I was like 10 or 11. Went out and like wanted to learn the violin. Started learning the violin when I was a young child, and then, you know, moved on to choir. So singing was like my jam, dude. Like, I loved singing.
To this day, you have a beautiful singing voice, but
people don't know that.
People don't know that. And I find it like, because I have heard you kind of like play sing around a couple people, and they have looked at me and went, I know, I scored, I got a lady that can sing, she can literally do everything. But let's kind of jump into that. You grew up around music, like, since day one.
Day one.
Tell me about hanging out with your dad and his band.
Since day one. My dad was in a band named Havana, and they toured, I think, my dad grew up in Florida. He was born in Chicago, grew up in Florida. His parents descended from Puerto Rico, lived in Puerto Rico, came over here. He was raised by his grandparents, and I think, I don't know a lot about them. I didn't really have grandparents, like, growing up, except for the one on my mom's side, because they were gone at the point that I was born. It's not of anybody's, like, fault or anything like that, but and he formed his band, and it was composed of him, 100% Puerto Rican, and 2 Cubans. And so they had this island, Hispanic, like, Latin island sound, and it was amazing. They have an album and everything like that. Went all the way across the country, landed in California.
So were they like a sellout arena show touring band, or were they like more lounge lizards?
Yeah, it was more like lounges and things like that. They started. I remember one of the gigs that we went to was pretty big. It was this stage that was outside. It was huge. There were a lot of different bands there. Some bands that were more well known than others. He's played on the same stage. I think he was at a same kind of festival that, like, Metallica was at, like, back in the early days.
Cool.
His band played with Tito Puente in a larger club. A larger Latin club. They played with Tito Puente.
Didn't we see one of his instruments?
If you guys are Latin, you would know what Tito Puente is.
Didn't we see one of his instruments in Epcot when we went?
Yeah, I said that is. I took my dad to the wall and I said, "Dad, it's Tito Puente," and he's all like, "Oh my god!" Like, and we took pictures of it because, like, he has video, and I grew up watching this video of him playing with Tito Puente, and like all these things. So, music was very important to me, but it was a type of music. It wasn't just music. It was Latin music.
So if I started playing a mambo beat,
right,
you wouldn't be able to help it, would you? You
like,
would just
you
have to start moving.
I have to start moving, but, like, different kinds of music and everything it's fine, but, like, it's that Latin music that I was raised with.
And that deep appreciation for, I feel like, because I've listened to your music taste, and, you know, when you play your music in the car, you have a deep appreciation of all different genres, and that has followed you to today. So what do you like to listen to now? It's
really, really weird. I'm okay with every single genre. I relate to certain songs more than a genre. For some reason, I don't know if this is me being an only child or, like, the time I was raised in or whatever, but I have to keep evolving. these songs, I can't listen to the same song over and over again. I'll listen to it maybe for a month. It'll stick with me for a month. It means something to me for a month, and then it might not mean anything at all to me, and I don't want to hear it.
Wow.
Yeah, like, and
that's so interesting, because I can love a song for my whole life.
I know.
Like, if I hear, you know, you played it the other day when we were playing D&D, if you play I Cross My Heart by George Strait, it's like instant tears.
Well, but it means something.
Right,
to
it
there's
has
a deeper meaning.
Sure, but I mean, I can listen to some bullshit song and I'll be like, oh, I really like this, and it's just on repeat for forever.
Forever, yeah.
And it's on the playlist, and I don't mind hearing it over and over. But that gives you a more diversified portfolio of things to listen to, though. So it's constantly evolving, and it's constantly changing.
Constantly. Because I'm so... I think maybe that's just how my mind works. I have to constantly change and constantly evolve to what I'm listening to or what I'm doing. I get bored very quickly.
Does that have anything to do with being an only child?
It might. It might.
Where you need to kind of have like almost like a Rolodex of constantly revolving things to keep your mind entertained because you have such a vivid imagination? Or do you think that has anything to do with it?
I don't know. I honestly, like, I talked to an expert and be like, is that something that is that a product of like OCD, or is that just a product thing? Because I don't feel like I have OCD, but I get fidgety, but I can focus. So it's like, I don't think I have, you know, I have it per se, but I have to constantly evolve. I have to constantly look at something. I get bored if I've done it already. Probably don't want to do it again unless it was like really, really good and I feel like I could get more content out of it, like per se, like Broadway musicals or different plays that we've gone to. We went to Moulin Rouge this last year. Phenomenal show. It was 10 times better than I ever thought it was going to be. Normally I would be like, I've watched it, I want to watch something else, I moved on, but that show was so phenomenal. I think I can, and I only I only saw it once. I think I can get more content out of it. So I want to go back.
I want to go back just for the dancing again.
The dancing, never mind, like the dancing on the soundtrack is good.
Good. Yeah. And it was, spoilers, modern.
Yes, it was a modern soundtrack.
Everything was modern. And I know like a lot of the stuff in the movie version was modern too. But we were talking about this a couple days ago. The musical that we saw, and this was at the Pantages, it was during summertime when it was touring, was more grounded in reality. Yes. And I don't know, I love that show.
That's why I loved it.
I would go see Moulin Rouge over Lion King. And Lion King is my favorite show.
Well, I think it's the fact that we've seen Lion King probably 3 to 4 times, if not more.
Together, and I've seen it more before that.
Right, and we've only seen Moulin Rouge once, and it was because I was like, hey, let's go see this show. I've learned the history of the Moulin Rouge. I know what it is now, I know what it was back then, and I watched the movie, thought it was the weirdest thing I ever saw. And it was very advanced for the time that it came out in. Very different from anything that anybody's ever seen. Yeah. And then watched it again, fell in love with it, started my research on that place, and then when the show came out, I was like, I need to see it. Yep. I have to see it. And then I was like, this is far better, I thought personally, than the movie. And does Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman make an enchanting couple and do an amazing job? Yes, they do. But that whole instant love and damn all the consequences is not reality. No. And in the show, the reality takes place. Yes, it does. And she tells him what for. And so that caught me off guard. And when you catch me off guard, I'm in love.
You done did a good job.
Yeah, you did a good job. That caught me, and I was all like, I am 100% in.
We're in.
On this thing. Sold. Like, I don't even care what you do from this point on. It wouldn't matter.
Standing ovations. Yeah. You got my vote. Yep. Give everyone in that cast a Tony.
And it was like, what, the first 20 minutes of the show?
First 5 minutes. Yeah. Not even. This music hadn't even started. I'm just looking at that. The music hadn't even started yet. And you already have all the performers just starting to walk around and very, like, statuesquely, like, begin performing in their own way and grabbing your attention. And you're like, this is going to be a badass show.
Yeah. So, Moulin Rouge comes back in.
Oh, we're going.
Go see it.
We're going. Continuing on with your love of music, you were in choir.
I was in choir.
You can play the bass. And you play the piano. Among other things, but those are kind of your three instruments, your voice, the bass, and piano.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still play? And do you still love to sing?
I do not play the bass anymore. It's been a long time since I picked it up, but I still know, the strings, G, D, A, E. And I could probably pick it back up again. But I started playing it because I wanted to be part of this, like, worship band with my dad. But it was mainly, like, just being with my dad and playing music with him. It wouldn't matter where we were or what we were doing. But I did it with him. He would teach me certain things. Was I great at it? No. My dad is a phenomenal guitarist and bass player. Phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I only wish I could play as good, but I probably could if I had really, like, put a lot more into it. But my voice was always what I went back to, but I always wanted to learn how to play the piano, and I contacted a teacher at one point while you were taking drum lessons. Mm-hmm. And we started that up, and it was amazing. It was something I always wanted to do, and things happened, and the pandemic happened and all that, and I should have picked it up then. But I am looking to get back into playing the piano. Sure. So but my voice has always been, like, my first thing. Like, I love to sing. Mm-hmm. I love to sing.
Now, would you consider yourself a professional shower singer, or do you think if I handed you a microphone and threw you up on stage and said, "Do Just Give Me a Reason" by Pink as a duet, could you nail it?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Like, I have that much confidence.
I know you do. But for the people that don't know that you've got a beautiful, almost second soprano voice, it's shocking to hear it for the first time. Because everyone goes, Bri Wynters, cool as a cucumber, cool feral cat on the block. Oh my God, she can sing.
I can.
And I mean, sing, not just like, you're good for carpool karaoke. You can sing.
I can sing. I've been, like, that was one of the first things I did when I entered high school, is I was in choir for all 4 years. So I've had training and everything. Like, yeah, I can sing.
You can sing.
I can do it.
So you're either the best or worst person to take to karaoke.
Probably, because, like,
you're gonna carry everybody, but you're also gonna make everybody else look really bad.
And there's a thing that I was reading the other day, and it was all like, we don't want to hear your Star Search voice. Like, we want to hear just bad karaoke. Like, that's what karaoke is about. So I feel, like, self-conscious, like, I don't want to sing karaoke. I don't want to do that because, like, I can't help but sing.
It's very difficult for someone who's trained to sing poorly.
Yeah.
Music carries over into, your everyday life today. Does it affect you at all? Do you feel a emotional or a visceral response when you hear certain songs, or when I send you something and I'm like, oh my God, babe, this reminds me of our characters, listen to it. I mean, do you get an emotional response when you listen, or is it kind of in one ear and out the other?
50-50.
Yeah?
Depends.
Depends on what?
Depends on what mood I'm in. It really does.
That's fair. But you're also the person, again, going back to only child, vivid imagination, you had to entertain yourself. I watch you do it when you zone out. You create music videos in your head.
I do. I love creating music videos in my head. That is, like, my favorite thing to do in the whole wide world with music. Love it. Or I'll put, like, a scene to it. And I think that has to do a lot with, like, I know you love music.
Oh my God,
you're obsessed.
I'm obsessed with music.
You're obsessed. I don't have that obsession.
Like I literally write our D&D games while listening to the soundtracks I'm going to use during game.
Right. So, when I was an only child, had my room full of stuff, I'm an only kid. I got to entertain myself. My parents put a TV in my room. It had 13 channels. Click, 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 click. Like,
not even a remote.
Not even a remote.
You had to
do it manually. That was my first TV, because I think I got it when I was like 8, so it was like 1988. This is an old TV.
Okay.
This is an old TV.
Was it like
the
12-inch block? Big old square. Maybe if you were lucky, it had a VHS attached to it.
It did not. No. my god, no. I didn't. It was like, the screen was like this big. It was, what, like a 20-inch?
No way. That's not 20 inches.
What is this?
That's like a 12-inch screen. That's like a foot.
Is this a foot? Because you'd measure
I know,
TV's
but yeah,
diagonal.
that's like a 12-inch.
Is it a 12-inch?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was a 12-inch screen. God, I feel like a foot. No, a foot's like...
Yeah, that's
okay,
a foot.
so it was a little bigger, though.
Okay.
Maybe it was like a foot and a half.
You had a 13-inch screen.
Ooh.
Wow.
No,
a perfect square?
It was probably like a 14, 15-inch screen,
okay.
right? Rabbit ears at the top.
Yes.
Got hot. Sometimes the screen would go, and I'd have to like go to the sides and go whack,
yep.
right? And it would just like,
yep.
Why did that work? I don't know. Okay. I don't know. Had the VCR plugged into, the three, the red, yellow, and white.
And white, yep.
Okay, so had that. That was life. My parents would videotape, because my dad was the gadget guy. He still is.
He still is.
Right? So my dad was the gadget guy. He had 2 VCRs set up. He could be playing something. He could be recording. You just buy blank VHS tapes, put it in, record what was on the TV. Mm-hmm. Boom, kid. There you go. Movie. Right? And I had...
You were bootlegging movies with your dad.
Is that illegal? Is that what...
Yeah,
okay, that's exactly... I had no Whoops. To be fair, my parents did buy me movies too, okay? I had the PG-13, like, blah, blah. Anyways, but I had a lot of movies that I would pop in. I must have worn out Temple of Doom. Must have, like...
Best one. Won't be taking arguments.
Like, worn out Goonies. Like, just
amazing.
Played the tapes. Breakfast Club. I was allowed to watch pretty much anything I wanted. My parents did not stop me from watching content at any age, and I'm 80% glad they did do that, and then I'm like 20% like I shouldn't have watched that at that age. I would not allow my own child to watch that at that age.
Is there something that sticks out of maybe you shouldn't have watched it?
Yes, I should not have watched House. It was a horror movie. Oh, okay. I watched a lot of horror movies as a kid.
The doctor show?
No. It was a horror movie called House.
Okay.
The girl or the woman that he was married to or whatever turns into this monster. And I don't know if it was actually a monster or whatever. She turns into this monster. And I was terrified. To this day, if I see something that even looks like her, terrified. Like, I would absolutely... I might be like, ho, like that, and like, but get through it. But, like, would be terrified.
I wonder if that's where one of your fears of horror movies started.
But in 1985, when I was 5 years old, my parents took me to the cable place, and we got cable TV, and we got the Disney Channel and HBO and MTV.
And it was over.
Right?
It was over.
So here it is. MTV launched their music videos, and I was enthralled. To this day, I could probably, if MTV still played music videos, I would... I would.
They don't. Not a lot.
Not a lot. I think there's certain hours that they do.
I know. God, I miss that. I miss Fuse.
And because now I have to go to YouTube to see the music video.
Yep.
But, Vivo, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I would watch the music videos and I would go, they made a movie to this song.
In 3 minutes.
And I was like, it's amazing. And I could, to this day, I could sit there, and I don't know if you've noticed one time where I've just flipped through music videos, like for hours, just like watching the content and watching what's going on. I watched HBO. I watched Spicorama when I was like 6 years old. I probably should not have watched that, but John Leguizamo was the funniest person in the world.
Is that what it was actually called?
Yeah. I'm sorry, like, not to like throw out like a racial slur or anything, but that is what it was called because he's Puerto Rican, and he was Puerto Rican like me. Like, and like my dad. And so I was all like, this guy's funny. He's the funniest man. And I still think it is. He has a new special on Netflix. I think it was like the history of Latinos or something that I made you watch.
Yeah. So good.
So good. Funniest thing. Great comedic actor.
I think I laughed the hardest when he started dancing in front of the cop. Because I think we were just talking about it. When music plays and it's got a really good Latin based out beat,
You can't.
You're
gonna give yourself away.
You can't help it. You really can't help it. I can't help it because I really like percussion. I play the drums.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start just, playing like a mambo beat underneath it or something like that. But yeah, you're a dead giveaway. But yeah, absolutely. So you had MTV, HBO, and
the Disney
and
Channel.
the Disney Channel. Wow.
Yeah.
You want to talk about diversity?
And from that spectrum, I gathered all this information, and I was like, this is the greatest gift like my parents have ever given me, because it was something that my mind was starting to just become creative and make things inside my head, and so I don't know. I know that there's a huge debate whether parents should sit their kids in front of the TV and that's their babysitter.
Right.
But that wasn't the case with my parents. They were very active with me.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was very active with me during the day. My mom was very active with me during the night, even though she had the hardest job. She was a teacher.
I couldn't do what your mom's
She had the
done.
hardest job. She was the champion of the family, holding it together, raising a kid, having this steady job, and letting my dad, live out his dreams
Mm-hmm.
and everything like that. And so there was a balance. Sure. I think that's where it was. That was the balance of I was able to watch anything I wanted. I could be in my room. I wanted to be in my room. I wanted to watch my stuff. I wanted to play with my Lincoln Logs. There was certain shows that I would run out to the living room, and my parents would watch them with me. They
Mm-hmm.
would let me watch them with, they would watch them with me. They would let me watch it, and they would sit there. The only thing that my mom had a problem with me watching, and this is like the only thing that she was ever like, I don't know, she let me watch it, but she wouldn't let me have the merch.
Simpsons?
Is The Simpsons.
The Simpsons.
And that's when it was first out, first coming out, because I used to watch, this was before In Living Color came out, if y'all remember that. I just loved it. I loved it that my parents, just let me watch stuff. I watched Star Trek The Next Generation with my dad. It was, a huge thing when it came on. And we just, sit down and watch it together.
You tried to do a Vulcan...
Yeah, I did a Vulcan...
Death grip on your mom?
I did. I was like, Mom, what was I, 6 or something? Mom, Vulcan neck grip. And she just went, and I thought I killed her. I started crying. I thought I killed my mom. I started bawling my eyes out because I thought I'd killed my mom. It was the best prank ever. I think I could say that my mom is probably the only one that has scared me to tears.
Oh.
Nothing else has scared me that bad. I thought I murdered my mom.
I love your mother.
Cold blood. Just, that stuff works. Careful what you watch on TV.
School wasn't always easy for you. Both, in some cases academically and socially, but in terms of academics, I think the way that you've described it to me is you can do it, you just have to try harder than everybody else. So, how was that in elementary school, in middle school, and in high school?
So academically, elementary school is great. And going into middle school is where I was starting to wane on math.
Okay.
Math is very hard for me. I cannot math.
You and I have had conversations about you being absolute garbage in math.
Absolute
especially
garbage.
In high school. Until you had the right teacher. So, do you think having the right instructor in all facets of life makes all the difference?
It does. I think that when you have somebody that knows how to teach, knows the different learning styles of students, and shows a passion for what they are teaching, that your students will want to learn and want to share that. I don't know necessarily that passion for it, but they'll kind of get excited too about what they're learning, especially
right.
when you know your, as a teacher, if you know your subject forwards and backwards, then it's easier for you to simplify exactly what you're trying to portray to your students. So, yeah, I was absolute garbage in math. Bless my mom for finding me tutors, for getting me through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had very excellent tutors that when my mom went back, I think in middle school, and was talking to a pre-algebra teacher. She's like, oh, it's like the veil's been lifted off her eyes. And well, it's, yeah, because somebody's actually teaching me the content. It wasn't you. It was the tutor that my mom got me that made me understand. And it was that holding me accountable, because it was a one-on-one thing. And that's what I needed. And I think maybe that goes back to being an only kid, is getting used to that one-on-one.
And then you found someone who understood your learning style, accommodated that, and then you did absolutely fine.
Yeah, I don't know if he, like, learned my learning style or, like, accommodated me, because it was, you know, obviously the same school or anything like that, but he taught it a different way. He taught it, I was lucky he taught it in a way that I understood and would literally, like, write down step by step how it works. And I remember going into, you know, getting a D, basically, in the first half of the semester, and then going out with a B- in the second half of the semester, and they were like, well, she didn't get the first half, she's not going to get the second half. Well, switch the teachers, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I got it.
Sure.
Can I do it now? No. But I'm actually a lot better at geometry than I am, like, just at math, like at algebra. I can see angles.
Oh,
I can tell.
I'm aware. You're a pool hustler.
Yeah, like, I can see angles, I know the pitches and everything like that. I'm still weak in proofs. Can't do proofs. I remember those.
That's where proofs, I come in and I can do them for you.
My enemies, but I could do half the proof and get half the credit, because doing something is better than nothing. You know, on a test.
Yes.
But getting like partial credit is better than not getting any credit at all.
A 50 is better than a 0.
Yep, absolutely.
Because I mean that's just that it is what it is. But despite having to try harder academically, did you still have fun in school? I mean, you know, people are always like, oh, you're going to miss high school, and you're like, no, you're not. But did you have fun in school, or was it still even socially difficult?
I had fun moments, but I can't say that I had a blast in school.
And that was a product of what?
I think that was just a product of me. I think I went from a private school, switched to public school, which was where some bullying started. I was different. I grew up very fast. I feel like I not only was like mature mentally per se and trying to fit in a world of all kinds of people, but I was like very physically mature. And that all started at an early age.
I mean, kind of going into that, you were the target of some pretty vicious bullying. What was the focal point that people decided this is what we're going to pick on Bri for?
Just because I looked different.
Because you
hit
puberty early?
Because I hit puberty early. I looked different than the other girls, and I couldn't wait to be 16, 17, where I would just be normal.
Yeah. Everyone mostly knows, probably most of the people watching this knows that you're tiny.
I am. I'm 5'2".
You're very small.
And I was 5'2".
But 5'2" to a 4th grader is gigantic.
Yeah. I was the tall kid. I shot up to 5'2", and that was it. But at 10 years old, I was 5'2". I was basically almost fully developed, and it was just hard. It was just hard.
Yeah. So because of that bullying, and again, I man, some of the things that kids can say are just absolutely vicious, and it can do some pretty detrimental things to your mind. I mean, I would say most people have had bullying, like really bad bullying happen to them, but yours was pretty...
I hated school.
Pretty constant.
Yeah. I mean, it's nobody... I don't want to say like it's just my parents' fault. They knew. They knew, but there's just nothing...
Yeah, what can you do?
At certain points there's nothing you can do, and the fact that like you just kind of pick yourself up and you keep going is a testament to just learning how to cope and get through things.
Yeah.
You know?
So was it because of bullying that your anger arose, or do you think that was something that was kind of always there and it was being poked at and stoked?
I think my anger was always kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was a pretty happy kid. But I was adjusting a bit throughout my time.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's nobody's issue. You know, it's nobody's fault. It's not my parents' fault.
No.
It's not anything. It's just, this is how it was.
Yeah, but bullies suck.
Oh, by far. And I'm glad that there is a zero tolerance in schools now, but at the same time, there's not a lot, unless something physically starts happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where it's like people call you names every day. We know.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like,
but usually the person it's usually the person being picked on that snaps, and then they're the ones that get in trouble, and not the person that was
right.
pushing this kid way too far. You know, that's where I have a problem with. You know, we have a zero tolerance fight. Sometimes people just need to get a good smacking.
and the bullying wasn't all the time. I'm gonna say, like, it wasn't all the time. I had bad moments in school, and then the next year, everything would be absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But yeah, going from private school to public school, and then going into middle school, like a public middle school, finding yourself there. That is middle school is like the most awkward time like that you can be in. I don't think anybody's had a perfect middle school career, like, whatsoever. You're trying to figure it out. Like, you're
so cringy.
You're so cringy.
And
like,
it's okay.
You're 13, you're cringy, whatever. And
be cringy.
Yeah, and
be
then
cringy.
I had my friends and everything like that, and I was part of the drill team. We had a drill team at the middle school and everything like that. I was learning how to dance, loved it, everything about it, choreography, and then I got pulled back into private school, and
whiplash.
Yeah, it was a bit of a whiplash, and I'm not gonna say that the school systems suck. They don't. But going into private school, you find out that they are on a different educated level than you are when you are in public.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
you're on a fast track
far.
in the private, or
yes.
even like charter schools and private schools. You're on the fast track, and it's all college prep courses. And in public school, it's not.
Yeah. So, and I remember I had to go in. My parents were pulling me out into into a private school, and I don't remember really caring. I was gonna miss my friends, but I had like 2 friends that were like my main thing or whatever, and even then I was kind of like, like, okay, like, I'll see you around, you know. And so I went in, and I think that's when my inner struggles started happening, and me figuring out my anger, maybe from past bullying or whatever. But it took me, I remember having to take a test when I got enrolled in.
Like a placement test?
A placement test, basically, like English, math, everything like that. Normal stuff, just got put into the normal classes or whatever. From that point on, I think from 9th to 10th grade, I was just trying to find my place in this area. And then, like, I would say, like, 11th and my senior year were, like, the best years. Yeah, it clicked. Like, at that point, like, it clicked. It was, like, it was good. I wasn't the cool kid, but I wasn't, like, the nerd. I was just kind of somewhere in the middle. I was kind of friends with everybody.
Yeah.
And I was in choir.
That's
so
an okay place
I knew
to
these
be.
people. Yeah. Okay to be mediocre and live a perfectly happy normal
boring
life. Because I'm going to tell you, like, the cool kids, I don't know if they're happy. I would hear things and I'd be like, it's not a perfect world.
Doesn't sound fun, guys.
You know, or you had, the academic kids, but they needed to get A's.
Yep.
Like, they had to.
They had to get into Harvard or UCLA.
Yeah.
And just so ground into the ground. Yeah.
I was just going to be happy. And I'm so happy that my parents never kind of put that pressure on me. They're like, learn. My education was important, but it was just pass. Just
get through.
Just get through.
Yeah.
Just pass. Just be happy and we'll go from there.
What is that like?
I know. I'm like, just get there and, graduate, and we're proud of you however it comes. However that diploma comes, we are so proud of you, for making it through. And it was great. It was great. Like, I was actually sad to leave high school at that point. Because since I didn't find my rhythm till 11th and 12th, I was like, I could do, like, 2 more years, and I think I'd be, like, really good.
That's what college is for.
Yeah.
Tae Kwon Do still is a huge part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
What belt do you currently hold?
I currently hold it, like, officially a 4th degree.
Mm-hmm.
4th degree black belt is my official rank.
Are you a registered deadly weapon with the Gugyeon
Yes.
in Korea?
Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow. Tell me the difference between forms and fighting and which one you prefer to do.
Forms is basically like fighting an invisible opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going through a series of moves, usually about 20 to 21, depending on the form that you're doing, and you're just using a series of blocks, strikes, kicks, and everything like that. And you finish. You should, if you do it correctly, start in one spot and end in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Fighting is what you see. So a lot of times when you see movies and you see a lot of kicks in the air and a lot of like aerial things, that's going to be Taekwondo. That's going to be a basis of Taekwondo. And then if you see a lot of flips and stuff like that, you're probably going into like extreme martial arts versus like capoeira. But most of the time those fights of 80% leg and like 20% fists, you're looking at Taekwondo.
What wisdom can you impart on the rest of us that you have learned and taken away from so many years of Taekwondo?
I think the main lesson that I have learned from Taekwondo is patience.
Which I have none of.
I'm not gonna lie, and I've told you this before in the past, so it's nothing new that you haven't heard, but it taught me patience. It taught me to calm my emotions, to broaden my spectrum in life, and it kept my body physically strong, my mind physically strong, and it allowed me to put that anger that I had inside of me out into something productive. And it feels good when you go to a tournament, and you win medals, you win trophies and things like that, that all your hard work kind of pays off. And I think that's with any sport,
Mm-hmm.
with volleyball,
and track.
And track and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Your work, you physically see the spoils, like in the outcome to all that work you've put in. But it really has taught me, patience, man. Like, I'm 100% glad that was something that worked for me, and it may not work for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say in your life once, go punch and kick something.
Yeah. Go
punch and kick something, and learn how to be with other people, and learn how to be a team, be an individual. And what I mean by being a team and being an individual is that you go as a school, as a team, to a tournament, but you are individually competing. Nobody has anything to do with your performance that day but you.
Mm-hmm.
There's no warm-up in Taekwondo tournaments. Mm-hmm. You don't start with that school to boost your confidence. You step into that ring, and that person may have practiced 10 times harder than you, and you're going to feel it. Or not at all, or you might be 10 times better than them, but that's the crapshoot. Going into like lower belts, now when you get into the higher belts, that's where I think I only had one black belt fight, but that's where I stopped fighting. I found more reward in forms. I wasn't the best, but I was really good at them. And teaching versus fighting. Could I hold my own? Sure. But I didn't take to fighting. I know, Bradley's like, don't fight, Mom.
No fighting.
No fighting. Can I fight? Yes, but our master really went on actually real world defending yourself. So I'm very good at practical defense than just point sparring.
Sure.
So
the longest summer, we always call it the longest summer job that you ever had.
Longest summer job ever. At first you worked for a Roadhouse theater, and those hours aren't really consistent, and then you got another job at Disney. So what did you hire into, and what was your role? So Disney was my first role ever.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 20 years old, I hired into East Side Attractions. I actually hired into West Side Attractions, and specifically
explain what that is to the non-Disney folk.
Yeah, so we break the park up into quadrants.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am.
She said, "You will be giving me attention right now."
Right now. We break the park up into quadrants, basically west side and east side, and we'll get into like more specifics, but west side would be New Orleans Square, Critter Country, areas. I think now
Adventureland.
Yeah, Adventureland. I'm not sure about Galaxy's Edge right now because that was added. That did not exist back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then the east side, you've got Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, it's more central and stuff like that.
So list off your attractions.
So I started on the east side, but I hired into originally to Critter Country, like west side attractions, Critter Country, and then when I actually got my piece of paper, I was like Astro Orbiter, 2 days training. Right?
Yay!
I ended up getting rocket rods. Instead.
Pour one out for rocket rods.
Pour one out for rocket rods. And that was my first attraction that I worked at Disneyland. So I worked with rocket rods, and like 6 months later, it shut down forever, as history knows.
Yep.
I moved to Autopia. We actually, on Rocket Rod's track, were walking as Autopia was being built, like rebuilt, basically, because it's been there since 1955.
Yeah.
But they took Fantasyland Autopia and then Tomorrowland Autopia, and they fused them together, and that's what you have the Autopia of today.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I worked Rocket Rods, I moved to Autopia. After that, I needed to learn a big kid attraction, and like Autopia was brutal, man. It's brutal. If you've worked Autopia before, man, you were taping ice packs too on the day. But moved to Space Mountain. Like Autopia was a 2-day training, Space Mountain a 3-day training.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quick. You either knew it or you didn't. There was no coddling on that. And then from there, when Space Mountain shut down for 2 years for this huge track refurbishment, I moved to Monorail.
Okay. And then after Monorail, what was your next set of attractions?
After that, but moved over to West Side Attractions.
And you learned what?
I learned Indy, Jungle Cruise, Tarzan's Treehouse, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Tiki Room was part of that whole thing. Eventually I learned Steam Trains. And I think Steam Trains was the last thing that I learned before I moved into a different role at the resort.
Got it. So I'm going to kind of Sophie's Choice you here, just a little bit. What's your favorite attraction you've worked? Ever.
Ever?
Ever. East side, west side, doesn't matter. You must choose. The people need to know.
I'm going to say, based on the level, the happiness level that I was at, with the people, with everything coming in, Rocket Rods.
Traitor! No, I'm just kidding.
And it doesn't
If you had
mean...
worked Rocket Rods, the amount of time that you had worked all the other attractions, do you think your answer would be different?
It might have been. It might have been.
So is nostalgia like maybe biting you just a little bit there?
But I'm kind of like, because like, man, like Monorail was so great. Like, I never really had any problems up on Monorail, not even with the people. Had a great crew with who I worked with. Had a great training. I remember just my time on Rocket Rods, as short it was, my trainer, and I still remember his name, Michael Braga, like, because of him, I was like, I want to be a trainer. Because that was the first time I didn't know I didn't know anything about Disney. I mean, obviously I went to Disneyland.
Right.
You go to Disneyland.
Yeah.
But coming in to the culture, of the Disney culture, like, as a cast member, because it is a whole thing, I had no clue. And he made it very well. He made it one of the greatest trainings and experiences I ever had. And I even had to have an extra day. And it was an extra because the person that I was training with was so outspoken. I'm not an outspoken person. Not then. And not now sometimes. I can be sitting in a room and you won't notice I'm there, but I'm listening the entire time. But I'm not going to speak to hear myself speak. If I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to talk just because I want to be part of the conversation. Like, I will just sit there back and enjoy what's going on around me. But the person I was with was very, very outspoken, very, very, like, just domineering on stuff. And so I had to, like, my PA, I was a little weak. My physical assessment, I was kind of weak on that. And he's like, you know what, you're there, but you're just not quite there yet. So let's come on in for another 4-hour shift.
Yeah.
Came in the next day, nailed everything.
Yeah.
So it literally was just that learning environment that I was in with that other person just being very, very domineering personality. As soon as I was put by myself,
So it was like Wednesday Adam and her roommate.
Yeah. It really was. It really was. But I think that, you know, going back to all my tutors, like going into math class and then going to tutoring on that one-on-one, you know, sword.
Right.
You know.
So we're gonna talk about some maybe kind of serious stuff. It's not a secret that you don't drink a lot.
I don't. And it's not like I haven't partaken in alcohol. But both sides of my parents' family were alcoholics, and I don't know a lot about, like, my grandfather. He died way before I was born. But from what my dad has said, the little that my dad has said, because to this day I don't know anything about him. I just know he wasn't that nice of a guy. That's why my dad was raised by his grandparents, who apparently were great. And then on my mom's side, that grandfather was not a nice man. I'll just say
That's
like that.
Putting it very nicely.
Horrible human being. But he was an alcoholic, and he died when he was 51 on Halloween Day. I'm just wary of people who drink very heavily, because they become unpredictable, and that's what I don't like about it. And I will never, and have never, drank to the point that I did not have full control over my actions and what was going on around me. And that's just me wanting self-control all the time, and I was blessed to not have an addictive personality, so I don't fully understand addiction where people can't stop, but I do know it is a problem. I do know it's a sickness. I'm not going to blame anybody for anything, but for me personally, I just don't have that addictive personality, so I was blessed with that, because on both sides, apparently it was a thing.
It's a problem.
Yeah, it was a problem.
But on the very rare occasion that you do choose to partake, do you have a go-to? Do you have anything that you really like?
I really love mimosas. I love champagne and like mimosas. Like that would be, if I was going to have like one, that's what I would have.
So when we went to the Magic Castle and you had that glass of champagne when we were having dinner, did you enjoy it, or could you have done without it, or like... Does that make sense? Like, do you still enjoy yourself when you do partake in that one very rare drink every so often?
It was bought for me from friends, and so I partaked in it. And it was delicious. It was really good. So I'm glad I had it. Could I have also done without it? Yeah, I could have, and absolutely had a great time. You know, that's just me. I don't need to have that alcohol to have a good time.
Right.
I would have been just as happy if they had bought me a Coke, but again, I do, if I'm gonna go towards an alcohol, like, I do adore champagne. I do. So
fancy.
Yeah,
you like the bubbly.
Fancy broad. Nothing has been easy. Nothing.
So, but I mean, despite...
But it has.
I mean, I can agree to that, because it's not a secret. We're married, and we're going on 8 years, and I feel like we have taken strides together to open lines of communication and to work things out, to make it easy for us, because the rest of the world is relentless. So, in that relentlessness, you know, growing up, it's very clear, you and I are part of the LGBT plus community.
Alphabet Mafia.
We are part of the Alphabet Mafia. Did you ever have an official, like, coming out? And if you did, was it messy, or was it, like, something out of the movies?
It was extremely messy. All kinds of mistakes. All kinds of mistakes made.
And that was...
2003.
Wow. I mean, you just know the date. The culture now and the culture then, even though, you know, everyone's like, well, you live in California, it shouldn't be a problem. That is not necessarily the case. But how is the culture then compared to how it is now? Because if you really think about it, 2003 really wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago, and I don't think that I never felt that I was like 100% in danger all the time. It's just going to certain places where you're conscious of who you are and like how you need to act. And if you're with the person that you are with, do you hold hands? Do you not? Yeah. And that's something that we have to think about every single day, unfortunately.
It just comes with the package.
And like Like, honestly, like, sometimes I feel so bad. Like, I feel so bad for you loving me and, like, and dragging you into this and stuff. And
No,
I'm
here for it.
I
I've
know.
loved every step of the way.
I know. But it's, sometimes it's not an easy life. I remember coming out to my parents and they were like, yeah, we know. They said it before I did. I was like, I need to tell you something. And they just said, okay, you're gay. We know that. Was it still hard? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, because there's expectations.
Sure.
You know, and I was with someone at the time. And like I said, things were very messy and I made a lot of mistakes. And I will always live with those mistakes, but I learned from my mistakes. And I think that's something about me that I find as a strength, is that every single mistake that I make, I will never make again. Because I learn. I look at it and go, that was my mistake. I own it. That's my own integrity too. And I'm like, never again.
You hold a double doctorate from the School of Hard Knocks.
I do. I most definitely do. But it was a hard thing, and I'm glad I took the path that I did, because I think about it on the daily, and I said, if I didn't make the mistakes that I did, I would never be here right now.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Well, you say that to me all the time.
Yeah. I had to do things. And
I like Uno reversing that to you. Because, you know, there's things that have happened that, you know, you're like, I wish that I could change that for you. And I'm like, every single thing that has ever happened in both of our lives has led to where we are sitting right now, right. Sitting in our D&D room with our fake backdrop and Jerry the plant, having the privilege to be able to talk about things like this relatively openly. And again, we are not diving into a lot of, you know, the heavy stuff that has happened, that we have gone through. And at the end of the day, it only made our relationship that much stronger. And that's, me personally, that's my fuck you to the world. You don't get to control anything about me anymore. And if that means that I get to continue to spend the rest of my life with you, then I'm happy. As long as you're happy, I'm happy.
Of course.
Was there ever a moment once we kind of started to get to know each other that you were like, I'm in trouble?
Oh, from like, and I was just a friend to you. I was just a friend, and that's all I thought I was ever going to be. And I think it just happened.
Yeah.
I think the relationship just kind of grew over time. We'd known each other since 2009.
Yep.
We didn't even get together until 2012. Yep. So we got to know each other very, very slowly until we got to a point where we're like, hey, you're cool.
Hey, you're cool.
We should, like, hang out. And then I was like, oh, you're, like, way more than cool. Like, I kind of really like you. And I thought that was a problem. I was like, I am not going to push this. I'm not going to say that I like her or anything like that, because I would rather have you in my life as a friend than, like, have you not at all or ruin something.
Yeah.
You know, pushing anything like that. So I think what developed was very organic and was very wanted on both ends. And so
look where we are.
Here we are.
Look where we are. You, Bri Wynters, the only child, inheriting my family. So you come from a very small family.
Very small.
So up until very recently, and your grandmother recently passed away.
She did, yeah.
You have pretty much had your mom and your dad. You inherited not only my little brother Mike, who has become one of your best friends, but his twin sister Jamie, and my 3 stepbrothers. Or not, my 2 stepbrothers and my 1 half brother. And the family that has come along with it. When we got married, we had, I think, 90 people at our wedding, which, all intents and purposes, is very small.
Is it?
It's very small. And it was 85% my immediate family.
Yeah.
Because that is how gigantic we are. So what has it been like going from one very, very small, tight-knit, kind of count them on one hand, family unit to the McCombs? What has that been like?
Like being I want to say like an introvert, partial extrovert. Like when I like people, I like them, you know, and I'll be outgoing, but most of the time I'm very reserved, like I said. But going into a family that large and just having a lot of people come over like all the time, and like it was like an open door policy up on the mountain kind of thing. Like that's not a thing down here in the LBC. Like we do not have open door policies in Long Beach, you know, it is very much, you need to make an appointment with me and I need to know you're showing up. Like, but up on the mountain, like, you know, it was just people this, and it's very, like, organic.
Oh, and all of our family friends.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying with this open door policy of just, like, people coming in and, like, saying hi and stuff. It's super overwhelming, and it still is sometimes.
Yeah.
So, I kind of do cherish the moments when I'm just with, like, one of your family members, you know? And, like, you know, Michael has become, like, one of my best friends. Like, we just clicked.
He's such a good guy.
Like, just organic, everything was organically, like, copacetic and everything, you know, so, but yeah, like, that big family thing, that's still overwhelming. Like, I still, like, and it's not that I don't love your family.
No,
I love your family, but being who I am and where I came from and having my little tribe all the time and just everything, I controlled every amount of my environment.
Not
like
anymore.
Going into that still sometimes makes my stomach drop. Like, I get really nervous because that's just how it is. Like, you know, you're used to it.
I am used to it, but sometimes I walk into it, especially when, like, my cousins were younger, and it was just, I still have the video to this day. Maybe I can find it and put it on an overlay really quick. But it's like all of my cousins wrestling around on the couch at my house up in Arrowhead, and Grandma just sitting there covering her ears watching the carnage. I feel like that's the best way to describe what it's like going from literally someone who's got a cat personality into a family of German Shepherds and Huskies and Golden Retrievers. Oh, look, new cat, you know?
Like, it's literally me watching my 13 channel television, like making movies in my head and stuff and just being in my own world.
Yeah.
To,
the way that I feel like, the way that I can describe this to anyone who either doesn't have a big family or anything like that is the scene in Toy Story 3 when the kindergartners come in and it's just like mass carnage all over the place.
Yep.
That chaotic feel is what I feel it can be like, and there are pieces of that I absolutely do cherish, but it can also get a little complicated every so often because families are going to have disagreements.
Yeah.
But you inherited that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Like, again, like getting those one-on-one moments with certain family members, with you, is special. It's like one of the moments that I'll never forget is when, Christmas Eve, we're wrapping presents with Jamie, and it's just the three of us, and the fireplace was on.
Operation Jamie stalled
and it
at
was
the last
like
minute.
really low, and then it just starts snowing, this like white powdery snow. So it was like this white Christmas. It was the most perfect thing ever. But it was just nice to be with with Jam and and you, and just that's it. No noise.
When we got married in basically the backyard that I grew up in up there.
In the forest.
In the forest, and it was beautiful, and I mean, God, you can't talk about a more perfect day, but tell me about the swing.
That was that quiet moment between me and you that we had before the wedding, and I remember we were supposed to have a rehearsal that morning, and it didn't happen, and then everybody took off to get ready, and then the two of us were sitting there putting chairs up for our own wedding, and we're like, wait a second. We're supposed to be getting ready too.
Getting my hair done.
But we were putting the chairs up. And we walked over to the swing, your childhood swing that you've had in that back area for forever, and I put you in the swing and I was just pushing you back and forth. Little known that like people were watching us, I think, from the window for a hot second.
People were watching for a hot second,
but they just left us. They just let us be, and it just it was just a moment that we had before we separated and got dressed and then came together and got married. But it was
and did the do and then had the best reception in the world.
Yeah, but I think that was our wedding was a blast. Our reception was a blast. But I think that quiet moment between us two was like really special.
I think in that quiet moment, I don't think I've ever told you this. In that quiet moment, I knew that the rest of our lives, for the most part, would be that. Would replicate.
God, I hope so.
Would replicate that moment on the swing, and yes, have our lives been absolute chaos every single day since then? Yeah, But
has it been?
But that's the thing though, is it hasn't, because we have our moments where we're just like laying down, staring at the ceiling fan, being like, "Are we having a dull moment?" Yeah, and we high five and go right back to sleep. Or we'll sit there and giggle on the couch like we were doing earlier. I was cry laughing about someone farting in church. Like, that to me, that essence of just human existence was that moment on the swing. And I find moments almost every single day that replicate that feeling without being on the swing. And I knew in that moment that despite whatever was going to be thrown at us, that's what it was going to be like. Yeah. I just knew, and it was such a ethereal and beautiful feeling.
And I think overall, even though life can get hectic and life can get crazy, if you take away one thing, is to just take a step back every now and then. Just take a step back and go, is it really hectic? Is it really crazy? Is this really a problem? Or is this just something that I need to get through?
Yeah.
You know? And like, just put it in retrospect that way. And I know we were talking earlier, you always have this like positive outlook on stuff, and it's like, because it could be so much worse.
Yeah.
It could be so much worse, and it's not.
It's really not.
You know? And like, even of all the troubles and the bullying and everything that I had during childhood and everything like that, when I really look at it, like, I had the best childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I had the best parents. They weren't perfect, but they did everything they could for me. You know?
Yeah.
And like, and they did what they thought was best for me. My first trip to Knott's Scary Fair was in 1996. I didn't go through any maze. I was 16. Absolutely terrified. And I didn't even pay for the ticket. Like, some guy paid for it. And me and my friend were just like chilling. We were just sitting in the zones, just minding our own business, like not going through any maze, not going through any of the zones hardly.
Okay.
Just hanging out at Knott's Scary Farm. And I
you
don't
were
think
doing
that's
the thing that
what...
we tell people never to do.
Yeah, I wasn't creating a ruckus or like, you know, being in the way or anything. I literally was trying to stay away from monsters. And so, yeah, went through that, and then I think around 2001 is when I went back and actually went through mazes.
Okay,
and everything
okay.
Like that.
What inspired you? Like, what was the moment where you're like, I want to do this?
I don't remember the exact year. I want to say like 2014, maybe.
It was during the 40th.
Yeah.
The Tricksters were there.
Yeah, so the Tricksters were there. I saw the Pumpkin Twins. They were like jumping into the crowd, like up on the thing, and just like interacting and whatnot. And I thought it was just like the coolest thing. Something just clicked. Something clicked, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to like jump up on stuff and interact with the crowd and just have a good time and stuff like that. So I was like, I want to do that. But it wasn't until like 2017 that I actually pulled the trigger.
Right. So, very briefly describe what you were going through during your first audition. Not like what we were doing, but what was going through your head.
Wow. I showed up. I remember we went to Midsummer Scream. We met John Cook there for the first time.
It was literally the day before, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was. And some guy, like, I remember you had cosplayed an SCP, and some guy walked up and was like, hey, like, can I hire them for a haunt thing? And I was like, oh, sorry, we're, like, auditioning for Knott's this year. We ended up going into Infected that first year, because he was there.
So you finished out Infected. So, but you were there for the final 3 years of it. It was in the Mystery Lodge location. But your rookie year, a couple weeks before we started, you got into a devastating car accident.
Huge car accident. So I was gonna die.
Do you think that affected? I mean, we know it did, because you can't not let a T-bone car accident at 40 miles an hour, or someone slamming into you because they ran a red light, not affect you. But do you feel it affected you morally, mentally, physically, whatever, during your first season?
It definitely affected me physically. I was able to move and everything. I was, for the most part, clinically, I was fine. Was I okay, like, really, like, deep down, was I still, like, healing from whatever happened to my chest, because my chest was hurting. I knew it wasn't a heart attack. It was just my sternum, something got crunched or whatever. I was just having racing heartbeat, and I remember that first year on Alpha Streets, just running back and forth, getting groups, taking them back, getting groups, taking them back. That was happening every 30 seconds, taking groups, taking back. Like, everything was hurting. Everything hurt. Everything hurt.
Everything hurt all the time.
All the time.
I feel like that's kind of like the haunt motto, but you in particular, like, you were recovering from a bad car accident.
I was recovering from that. I had to actually take Tylenol to even put pressure on my hips, like, from walking that much.
In hindsight, maybe we should have waited another, but again, we've done everything we've done has led to where we are now.
That's right. We made it through. We made it through. Did
you have fun despite working in a simulated war zone for 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I had a great time. Were there days where I was just exhausted because I'm still working my regular job plus doing haunt. So there were days that, 2 days where I would only get 4 hours of sleep for those 2 days. And before I could get a full eight hours. And yeah, it was tough. It's tiring, but overall we keep coming back. We keep coming back.
Yeah, we keep coming back. It's like a drug. Are you grateful that you did do a couple years in a maze first, even though the maze was kind of like I don't want to say it was a hybrid in Mystery Lodge, it was definitely a maze, but the way that squad leaders work in comparison to how other positions in other mazes work is very different. Do you think that helped you going into your street position?
Absolutely. Yeah.
In what way?
I'm glad that I was able to spend 3 years in a maze. In like 2019, like a lot of my friends, including you, like had moved on to Ghost Town to go to streets. I stayed to do some media things with Fractured Compass that year, and then came into haunt like a week later, and finished it out. I would say like my first year, I was just trying to prove that I could do it, and was this for me? Second year, came back like I had a good time. Where was I?
Bravo.
Was I in Bravo?
That was the year that the maze flooded.
That's right. So, doing Bravo Streets and having a different area than Alpha, like, it was good because I could get a new repertoire. So, being in that maze for 3 years, in that maze environment, it allowed you to be, especially in Infected, it allowed you to be very creative. It teaches you how to have, and this isn't all mazes because there are some mazes where you're in that boo hole, you're coming out, there's nobody behind you. It's not a 360-degree experience for you. You're in that boo hole, you're coming out, you're in the boo hole, you're coming out. For Infected, it was a 360-degree experience for not only the guest, but for you. So you were constantly having to watch your back, you're constantly moving around, you're aware of the guest, but you're also aware of your fellow monsters that are in that area. And so it was
especially at double backs and choke points.
Yeah, it was a really, really good learning experience to be on the street, to be in a 360-degree environment and go, okay, I get it. Now, once you get out on the street, you're a little clumsy at first, too, doing a new character.
Yeah.
But that's with everything.
Sure, yeah.
That's with everything. So, I'm so glad for my experience. My experiences in Infected, because I think it did help me a lot with my character work. Because even though I was a squad leader, I'm an operator, I'm going in there, we're going to shoot the zombies, stay 5 feet away from the zombies at all times,
dodge,
shoot
dip, dive, and dodge.
Yeah. But I evolved my character by the end of the run to basically be, lost my lover, and I had a blinded eye, so I had a contact in my eye that was made it all white, make it blinded. I had scratches across my face. Sometimes I wore a bandana, sometimes I didn't. And I had bits and pieces on my costume that, meant something to my character. I don't know if you, nobody could tell, but I had your actual dog tags from the Navy, on there. And then I also, over time, over the 3 years, had collected pieces of the zombies that I had worked with. Not pieces, but pieces of their clothing.
Yeah, that have fallen up on and hooked on pieces of the set and stuff.
Yeah, just stuff that had ripped off naturally just from wear and tear. And I had tied that onto the thing, and I had all of them, and I still do have all of them. So
on your little key ring.
Yeah, so
washers.
My time in Infected, I know a lot of people, a lot of scare actors kind of would groan at it because Infected was a beast. but I would not change that experience for anything.
Moving from being a, you know, in-your-face, loudmouth, you know, private military contractor to...
Which, by the way, I wasn't. I tried. I really did.
No,
Again,
I know, but like, that's the, you know,
I tried.
The image that's put out there.
I was the tiny
You weren't
one.
smaller than Nancy. Nancy, I think, is shorter than you, but Nancy's loud. Man, Nancy's got a voice.
Oh, yeah,
on her.
she's got a voice.
After COVID restrictions were lifted, in 2021, you got casted in Ghost Town as the Wildcat. So how was it going from the infected to being Diego on Ghost Town?
It's an experience to go into the original scare zone. Ever. Like 50 years of this scare zone and work with these veterans that have been doing it for almost longer than I've been alive. So it's something to walk into those shoes and to be on Ghost Town streets. It means something. And the thing is that that's where I was recommended to go. And I brought my character in, and he was, you know, a brand new character that hadn't been a cat on Ghost Town for a while. Not that there hasn't been in the past, but there hadn't been a cat on Ghost Town for a while. Bringing him in, I felt like I needed to earn my spot.
God, I love Diego. Diego's so cool.
Diego's the coolest cat.
Diego is cool, and I think
cat.
there's something about the face that, even the new face, but the original face that Jesse created with the fur and everything, and that tilted cowboy hat, the gambler hat, and the red accents. There's just something so visually striking about Diego that, man, I'm really glad you got to play him. So, what made you choose the Wildcat, and what other characters were you entertaining if you decided not to do basically a Bobcat?
So if I didn't do Diego, which was like my first, well, he wasn't my first choice. Like I was thinking about a coyote, because you were already part of the wolf pack, and we were thinking like, well, if this little coyote was running around and he tried to be part of the wolf pack, but he's not a wolf, like how cute would that be? And they would just pick on him the whole time. He would just be running,
whoop on him and throw him out.
I also thought of bringing in, like we had talked about, like an assayer thing that you had an idea of that, and I was all like,
yeah,
well,
I did have an idea for an assayer.
Yeah, and having that gold, like, you know,
the gold veining and like it basically like a Midas touch.
Yeah, like basically corrupting through their veins and everything like that. But I was all like, man, I'm not a good human. I'm not a good human. I was like, and I'm not gonna lie, it's so much easier to play an animal.
I agree,
because you can just do animal stuff.
Yeah.
And be, you know, sometimes silly and sometimes ferocious and aggressive, but being a human is just, I don't know, it's just, for me personally, it's just way harder.
You know, first off, were you nervous? And obviously it took time to kind of find Diego, but were you nervous?
Yeah, oh yeah. If I wasn't, if I said I was like 100% confident, I'd be lying.
Now,
I'm still not 100% confident sometimes.
on top of kind of being nervous for your first year, which is totally understandable.
That's how it is.
Man, those crowds coming back post-COVID.
Yeah,
they were rough.
People just kind of, Halloween was the first thing that everybody hit when things started to really, really open up and have events again like that. And I just feel like people forgot how to act.
Yeah,
they forgot how to people. Everything. Yeah, and that we are people behind masks, and we got grabbed, punched, kicked. Yep. And I know that comes with the territory, and I hate to say that, but being a scare actor, that comes with the territory. You're going to get punched at some point. Yeah. You're going, whether it's on purpose or if it's reactive, it's a punch.
Yep.
And, you know, you're going to get touched, you're gonna get grabbed. It just seemed like that year it was just a daily occurrence. And then come 2022, it was more of a rare occurrence, and we were all having a really good time. Not that there weren't guests that caused problems every now and then, and people didn't get, you know, messed with. Yeah, we just had I feel like we just all had a really good time. At least I did.
This past year, this past year.
And I was all like, yeah, definitely going back. But you know what? Even if I had got my butt kicked every day, I still probably would be going back.
Yeah.
But I might be going back in like another role.
2022, you got Slider certified. So, talk about the...
That was a test.
Yeah, oh my god, that was a test.
That was a test.
Tell me about the difference between how you were able to develop Diego as a non-sliding character into a character that had the ability to get on the ground and use knee pads, because I think you and I are very much in the boat of we are not going to just go out and slide. That is not what we're there for. We're there to act and to portray this character, but having the utility of being able to be on the ground with slider pads.
That might have made a huge difference about how much fun I was having, because, you know, sliding isn't for everyone, and I don't say that every character has to have sliding pads. And I know Knott is like the birthplace of sliding. Ghost Town Streets is the birthplace of sliding from, like, you know, 1980s. So a lot of people do go out and they're like, I want to slide, you know? But when Diego put the knee pads on, I was like, oh man. Like, there's another tool in my pocket, and I can be smooth, I can, you know, turn on certain surfaces, but I also found out that on certain surfaces of Knott's, it is not slide friendly.
Yeah, it gets sticky.
It gets sticky, so you kind of do a one knee test slide every now and then just to see if it's like just real quick to go down. If you ever see us just quickly kind of go down and push and pop back up, it's because we're testing that ground. Now, though, guys who've been sliding forever, they kind of got it down to where you can slide and where you can't, but you got to make it to that center sometimes, because if you start right at the edge, you are just going to stop on a dime and go down. And I did a couple times.
That's part of your learning curve.
It's part of the learning curve.
You're gonna eat shit every so often.
And I'm not going to say, like, you know, sliding's fun. I enjoyed it, but, you know, it's also extremely bad for you to throw yourself on the ground, even when you have gear, and take that punishment on your knees and your hands. If you're going to pick up the hobby, please be conscious of your, like, technique.
Yes. You got your toolkit, you know, amplified with having knee pads and everything. And then at the end of the season, Diego dragged his canonical and in real life wife off stage because she was dead. So is that, if you get your spot back, is that going to play into how you portray him?
He's definitely going to be very more aggressive this year. He's angry, as our backstories go. He's angry that she was killed. She may be at peace, but he couldn't take that and changed some things, and he is now living with that guilt of what he's done. And you guys will find that out this season of what happened. So stay tuned. But but he's living with some guilt, and he's very, very angry. So he's going to be very aggressive this year. He's not really going to be, like, curious about stuff. He doesn't want to hear anybody's voice. He doesn't want to put up with anyone. So there may be a night where Diego's revenge comes to pass for the town of Calico basically driving things the way they did.
So pissed off kitty cat. Just wrecking house.
But I have yet to decide whether he dies or not. I haven't made a decision, so stay tuned for that too, because, like, that may be a last minute decision or not, or maybe you may just have to live with his consequences of what he's done.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know what the future holds for him, but you know,
pay attention, because we act out these little things throughout the season.
Yeah.
And y'all don't, like, you know, if you really pay attention to our stories, these are not sanctioned by Knott. This is just stuff that happens organically.
Have you found it easier to be able to, like, you know, watch cat videos or watch, you know, videos of mountain lions and bobcats to be able to incorporate, or do you think that most of your stuff is just random things that you have come up with in your own mind?
As for, like, the noises I make sometimes, that's definitely videos that I've watched to see kind of those weird wildcat noises. Wildcats make far different noises than domesticated cats.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know it was a cat sometimes. You're like, what is that?
Sounds like a woman screaming.
Yeah, but other than that, it is more of, like, just watching our own cats that we've had and just cat behavior. Because when it comes down to it, except for the noises that are made, a cat is a cat is a cat is a cat.
Yeah.
Whether it's a tiger or whether it's Mittens, they're gonna roll the same. They're gonna paw at stuff the same.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go too much detail into, like, what cat you watch, you know. But yeah.
And do you generally enjoy it? Do you really like playing a cat? Or
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I can't wait for the season.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Because now I'm like third year into the season and third year into this character.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm feeling like pretty confident right now.
In your abilities as
In my
Diego?
abilities. Plus, you know, there's a lot of practice that goes into it. We are practicing right now. So, I love being Cat. I think I'm gonna slide and just like roll all of a sudden and just be like, I
want to hear from you one of your best 2022 memories playing Diego.
Wow, I was kind of like a lone wolf this year. That's a hard question. There's just I know, it's almost like you black out when you go out there. I remember finding a skeleton rat that was in the display window on Market Street, and I like literally went and found the rat and like had him follow me all the way around, and then I was like showed it to him and just like ta-da, and then like walked away. I remember when the deer of Ghost Town figured out she could finally make sparks with her toe caps, and like there was you, me, the rat, the deer, and we're all just going because like they figured out they could do it, and we were all just like throwing we were just throwing a little spark party like all the way down Fog Alley, like because she could finally do it. That's so dumb.
It's so innocent too.
It's so innocent.
I love her.
Yeah, like it was one of the, but it was something that stuck out in my memory that I was all like, yeah, that was really cool. There was the wall of death,
the wall of
scare, or whatever they wanted to call it. Morty was starting it a couple nights, and he would just stand in the middle.
Oh, the intimidation wall.
Yeah, the intimidation wall. So Morty would just stand there for like 20 minutes, like not move, but then just scare people. People would go passive. Then everybody decided one night that they were just going to make this wall, and you had to pass through like inches past us. I remember this kid just like jumping at everybody, trying to act all tough, and I was like way in the corner just watching him.
You were also sweeping too. You're kind of
I was just kind of sweeping, but I was just like, I was literally just chilling there like watching the whole thing and just being Cat, just really low, like in a crouched position, and then I just like stood up and was like, this kid needs to move. Because he was kind of ruining it, like, because everybody else behind him was just gathering. Yeah. So now it was like 4 scare actors versus this wall of people that were like building up behind him. And I remember just sweeping in like from the side, just raptor style, and just going, he like didn't even see me until the last moment. He jumped away, and then everything moved. But that's a testament to how we like kind of look after each other too on the streets, is because I'm all like, yeah, it's funny, but this kid is actually starting to create a bad situation for 4 versus 50. So, move. Yeah. You know?
For sure.
Because those are my friends. Like, don't. Yeah. You know? Don't.
Don't. Were there any other moments that are kind of sticking out other than you showing Jesse his rat cousin that was dead in the case, and the wall of intimidation? And
another one stands out. There was an actual cat on the roof of one of the stores one night, and everybody's just staring at this cat, and I just walked up and just sat and just started meowing at the cat, and the cat was just like up there. It's the weirdest thing.
It wasn't, like a real cat? Yeah. Like not one of the sleeping
No, it was a real cat. It was just like chilling. And I was just like, oh, like pointing at me, like pointing at that, like... It was so stupid. Going into Origins for an hour, messing with the girl that was with the Green Witch. She thought it was hilarious, so...
One thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about in terms of haunt is a phenomenon usually that kind of involves celebrities or like sports stars, but parasocial relationships and haunt monsters, or just any character that you portray in a public environment for the purposes of like entertaining.
I personally, because I am a very closed off, it takes me time to make friends, it takes time for me to trust people and everything like that. Like I was like, I hate that. I hate it. I can't do this. And I don't think like per se like it's ever happened to me, like, but who knows, because now that I know parasocial relationship would be somebody that is completely making something up in their head. They just necessarily haven't contacted me per se about, it hasn't affected me. But, yeah, I just can't. I can't. As soon as I found out what it was, I was like, I can't. I am portraying a character. Even if I'm nice to you, it does not mean we are friends. Yeah. Like, it does not mean that I am inviting you into my life. If you try to push your way into my, especially me, you try to push your way into my life, like, I will immediately just, like,
Yeah.
U-turn. You know, like,
I
am
like it's the
definitely...
fastest way to push you away
Yeah.
is to like be like, I'm obsessed with you and I want to be your friend. And you're like, oh no.
Oh, you can be obsessed with me, but, like, we're not friends. No.
So obsessed with me.
But, yeah, it's very much like let the cat come to you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't push the cat to be friends. And everybody, you know, people who are close to me, I have known, with the exception of a few that I have bonded with, like, closely in a short time, it has taken 3 years minimum to get to a point where I'm like, yeah, I want to, like, hang out with you.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we should go to dinner.
Yeah.
And start there. And, like, maybe, you know, do things.
Maybe we can go on our first date.
Friend date.
Friend date, yeah.
Friend date, you know,
After
like...
3 years of getting to know somebody. Do you think it's like a weird phenomenon that, like, we all experience kind of this inadvertent, like, these weird relationships that people form with our characters without knowing or remembering that we are just regular people that have weird makeup on or have a mask on that are portraying a character, and just because you've interacted with the character doesn't mean you know us personally. And sure, right. We may put a lot of our own personalities and or traits or things that we want to work through into these characters to be able to express them in a healthy way, but that doesn't mean that Joe Schmuckatelli knows you.
Joe Schmuckatelli.
Yeah, it's a Navy thing.
I love it.
It's a Navy. It's a Navy.
I love it
Navy
so
thing
much.
we used to do when we were doing drill.
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Oh, Joe Schmuckatelli. Do you think it's like a phenomenon? Or do you think like it's a thing?
I think it's a thing, and when I was reading about it, when you were kind of, like, presenting that to me, like, you know, what do you think of this? You know, it's all, like, it's most common with celebrities and TV personalities and things like that, sports stars and stuff like that, where people just kind of fixate on one person, and then they start imagining a life with that person. They start imagining them being friends with that person,
mm-hmm.
and then, like, it can get, and I think there's a difference between, like, man, like, I would love to be friends with them, and, like, that would be so cool, or something like that, and there's another level that it can be taken to where it can get dangerous,
yes.
I think, and where that person becomes a stalker, and that stalker becomes your murderer. You know, like, you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
But it can get to that point.
Absolutely.
Because that's...
If I can't have you, no one can have you.
Exactly. Well, and that can be a lover thing too, but you start... Everything starts...
You're literally doing the toilet bowl.
Yeah, like, everything starts at a point and can escalate to a dangerous situation.
Sure.
So if you have somebody that is being that way to you, like, nip that.
Something that I think you have always excelled at is having a boundary with, please, like the art that I'm presenting to you. That's why we're doing it. Mm-hmm. We're here to entertain you, but don't be weird.
Yeah. In every single facet of things that I've done, even being more introverted, going out and starting YouTube, starting Fracture Compass,
mm-hmm.
starting Haunt and everything like that, I've always kept a line. And even people that, you know, I love talking to fans and people who are like, you know, I love your content, you know, the short movies that we make,
mm-hmm.
things like that. That's all stemmed from my childhood. Doing
everything goes back to Bri Wynters making music videos in your head.
Videos in my head. But doing all that, I've always kept a boundary line for
mm-hmm.
the most part, where it's like, thank you, you know, so much, and
yeah,
we'll actually have a full conversation, and I love talking with people, and that's kind of where it stays. But I think with most people, that is a boundary. That's a healthy boundary, yes. as well, that they have for them. It's like, hey, you do really cool stuff, and I came up and tell you that, and, like, I don't expect anything else from you,
yeah.
except for a little bit of your time,
yeah.
and I am more than willing to give that.
Sure, yeah.
You know, absolutely. But if there is an unhealthy, persistent person that continued to come up, and I did not want that, that's a conversation that needs to be had, instead of people being, like, really overly polite sometimes, because there comes a point where you can't be polite anymore, especially if that person's making you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Or they're pushing a relationship on you, and by that I mean even a friendship, that
is unwanted.
Yeah, that is unwanted.
Yeah.
And consent is everything, everybody.
Yeah. So, you know, again, with the exception of a couple people, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is at that point. This is my line to start. If I move my line because I deem you fit, then that's
your decision.
That's my decision. Yes. And it has to be a mutual decision, you know? If they're like we're casual friends,
great.
We're casual friends.
Yeah.
No skin off me, I'll just go to watch MTV or to watch Vivo and make my
and keep going on with your little kitty life.
With my little kitty life, you know?
How has your D&D experience been?
I love D&D. It is that RPG game that you can really get into, create a character for yourself, and you know, vibe with your fellow, I don't want to say classmates, your fellow
and your friends
table.
are sitting around the table.
Yeah, your friends are sitting around the table, and it's a way to just come together and forget your troubles for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
So it was really cool, but even in the pandemic, it wasn't till like later where things kind of started opening but not opening that we really started actually sitting with people at tables, because there was, you know, we ran a campaign that was a 6-shot that we did over Zoom.
Do you feel like, despite, you know, all of our toys were taken away in 2020, do you feel like, you know, just starting to touch the world of D&D, did that kind of scratch the itch a little bit for you of being creative and having an outlet a little bit?
I think it scratched an itch for me in a certain spot, but not 100%. You cannot replicate putting on that mask and that costume and going out and being out there on the streets and scaring people. Like, you just can't. I think it opened up a new avenue and a new thing that I like to do and that I love to do. But as for like haunt, no, it did not come to close. I was pretty sad. In the world of Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs, what has been your favorite character that you've played so far? I love my Atreyu character. He's a little half sea elf, half human, just American Pie, or not American Pie, but like, you know, apple pie boy. Yeah, apple pie. Like, give you the shirt off his back, would die for you if he had to. Yeah, kind of thing. Atreyu's a good kid. I just love being him and going through these emotions of a 13-year-old boy, because like, I mean, when anybody hits puberty, or you know, that adolescent age, it's almost all the same. There's differences, you know, yeah, but you're almost always awkward. Oh yeah. I do appreciate that you're really like leaning into some of those moments, but Atreyu's just he's so charismatic, and so suave about everything. 17 charisma. And I have a 7 charisma. So yeah. 17 charisma. He's a rogue, so. Atreyu's just this little spot of sunshine. He really is. Atreyu. And then you've played characters like Lucian, who was your tiefling in our Infernal campaign, which admittedly was a very dark campaign. Super edgy. Yes. Lucian was a blood hunter edgelord. Yes. 100%. 100%. But there was still so much of Bri Wynters inside of Lucian. There was, you know, like, despite him being this super tiefling edgelord, like I'm Lucian, you know, like everybody hates Lucian until you get in trouble. But he again was also absolutely willing to die for what he felt was right. And when it came down to it, even though Atreyu is more like, I'll do it, or like, put me in coach, like I'll volunteer, you know, Lucian thinks about it for a second and just is like, and always does the right thing, but he does it with an eye roll, the right thing. Especially if it's somebody that he doesn't really believe deserves to live, but he's like, but they're not supposed to die now. Yeah. Are there any because I know there's one moment in the Infernal campaign that I'll never forget, and there's been a bunch of moments in our current game, but is there anything for you that sticks out? Any, you know, RP moments, any funny things that have happened at the table, any just like, how did we pull that off? Any of those? I always think about that when we were in the maze and you're like, don't make any sudden moves. And they're like, Lucian already made a sudden move. And I'm like, I did. It was very sudden. He was just these one-liners. Yeah, so you guys were having this whole conversation, which was like really important, but like we were in a tavern setting. So like, the rest of the end of the table was like having this little chit-chatting conversation about like, we don't like this guy, he's talking too much, I'm here to shut him up, let's see if I can take my crossbow and take this pumpkin seed, which you had derived, like if you eat the seed, you turn into a little tiny pumpkin with little axes.
Yeah, you turn into a little
with like
pumpkin goblin thing.
With like what, like a 7 hit point or like
you
something
maybe
like that.
had 5 hit points.
And so I was like, okay. And then we, after like 5, it was like a 5-minute conversation.
Yeah, I was really grilling that side of the table.
And you're finally like, what are you guys doing? And I was all like, okay. So.
You're like, it was all in character.
Lucian, it was all in character. Lucian is tired of this guy's mouth. And he wants to like put a pumpkin seed and see if he can just shoot it into him and make him turn into like this tiny little 7 hit point pumpkin.
Yeah.
And you're like, sure. Like,
go ahead and roll.
Go ahead. Because it's a Lucian thing to do. He's like, I'm tired of your mouth. Like, stop talking.
Yeah.
Nat 20, right in. Huge 6'8" demon. Tiny pumpkin.
Tiny pumpkin.
You know, like.
And it was, oh man.
It was great.
It was just one of those moments where like, I have to be proud of your guys' creativity, and the dice wanted to tell a story.
Yeah.
Because it was a beautiful moment, and it kind of brought the whole table together, and it was one of those things where even I remember the other demons in the tavern were like, we didn't want to hear him talk either.
They thought it was hilarious. They just picked up they picked up the guy and like carried him off.
They picked him up underneath their arms, and he's all,
yep.
And they're
just
like,
carried him off.
Nope, you're coming home with us, stupid.
I mean, all he had to do was like chop himself, probably.
Yeah,
drop his hit points, but still.
Have you had a favorite game where just the table was on fire, and everyone was having a good time, and everything firing on all cylinders? Have you had one of those yet?
Yeah. I mean, this last game actually we had was like phenomenal.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was really, really fun. And then we just played a space one-shot, which I loved, but we're in the middle of finishing that. But the Krampus one-shot that you just ran, everybody just kind of got along, like, with that one. But the one, this is going to sound dumb, the one that I kind of want to redo, but I loved playing these characters, was the Ghost Town one-shot we did where we were all our characters, but it was before the curse hitting. We had to do it over Zoom, and I think it would be a lot better in person.
Yeah.
But I loved everything about that because it was our 2 characters playing out what their lives were and like how serene it actually is and normal that it is before Sarah Marshall rips us all apart.
Before Sarah Marshall came and wrecked house.
Yeah, it was just a really, really nice and creative way to play those characters before everything happened.
Yeah. Everything that you've run, like the Alien game and the Ghost Town campaign, and even the first part of the current campaign that we're playing in before we switch spots, you do such a good job.
Yeah.
Across these characters that you've played, whether it's on a tabletop RPG or, as Diego in Ghost Town or as this PMC in Calico City in Infected.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does portraying characters mean to you? Does it have weight to it, or is it just fun?
Honestly?
Yeah.
It's me just making mini movies come to life in my head.
So much. I love that there's no hugely deep meaning. It's just my music videos are happening right now in my head hole in real life.
My character is just one giant music video.
I love that. And we've got soundtracks playing during D&D.
Yeah.
You've got a soundtrack playing during Haunt.
I got a soundtrack in my head playing.
You've got your own What music is playing in your head when you're Diego? Tell me. Oh, you have to admit it now.
Jesse's gonna if Jesse listens to this, he's gonna laugh because a lot of times there's a couple songs that I do listen to before Haunt that just kind of get you amped up.
Like Seven Devils.
Like Seven Devils. It's just kind of these darker side, little bit of Ghost, here and there. When Diego gets into a mode, I'll actually say it out loud, and it's this, the soundtrack that's playing over on Ghost Town.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just go like this. I'll just walk through Ghost Town going dun 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 dun. It's like, but
how have I never heard this?
You've never heard it, Jesse? freaking dies when he hears me sometimes doing it. I'm just like, dun, 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 dun,
Oh
dun,
my
dun, 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 I'm
God.
gonna get you. Like,
I love that.
um,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's
but
funny.
like, it's so, I'm so silly because you know what, guys? Life's too short. You gotta stop and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you think that you're so serious wearing a mask and a costume scaring people, it's not. It's not that critical. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a job and it's hard. It takes a beating on your body.
Yep.
And sometimes you take a beating from the guests. But we all come back. We all do it. And in the end of the day, you put a mask on and some costume and you go say boo.
And they go, eh.
And they go, eh, and then you move on, and it should be fun, it should be a good time, and I try to make life just a really good time, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes you get frustrated, but again, take that step back. I exercise the patience that I have, and I go, alright, let's move on.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
You know, tomorrow might be a better day, you might have something to look forward to in the future, or you know, in the next 3 days you're going somewhere that you're just super excited for, so let's just push through, you know, let's get to those happy moments, let's get to those things, because I mean, like that famous book, like, don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Feral cat candles. How?
I was bored.
Feral cat candles, the brainchild of Bri Wynters, happened because you were bored during COVID.
I was bored during COVID. I decided to learn a skill once a month. I was all like, wow, this isn't gonna be 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't gonna be 2 weeks. I was like, I want to learn how to do a skill. So first thing I decided I wanted to do was learn how to be an escape artist. So weird, right? It's the weirdest freaking thing, but I have been obsessed with escape artists and magic since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Love magic, love everything about it, especially Houdini, and Houdini was in my opinion, one of the greatest escape artists there ever was.
That's why I went to the Magic Castle.
Yeah, exactly, and one of the reasons why I just want to go back one more time.
For the Houdini experience.
For the Houdini experience. Not, I wouldn't say obsessed, but if anything comes on about Houdini, I'm gonna watch.
Yes.
I learned how to escape out of handcuffs, with a shiv. Haven't mastered the double lock yet, but I definitely mastered the single. Yeah. Especially in front of my hands, and then I did behind my back.
Did do it behind
and
your
I was
back
and I got out.
Yeah.
And then I was all
I lost so many bobby pins to that.
I'm so sorry. I needed to make the right shoe. It wasn't even the right one. It just worked.
Yeah, just happened to work. Yeah.
But and then I wanted to learn how to escape from a jacket.
Well, it turns out that the jacket that we have, because your dad used to be an EMT, is a legit one.
It is a legit one.
And
straight jacket.
Not escapable for the most part.
Yeah, and I also don't have the correct. Obviously I was watching some YouTube videos, but I didn't watch any YouTube videos on the straight jacket. I was just put me in it and let me see if I can get out. Yeah. There are certain ways to do it by puffing yourself up, kind of holding your arms out to give you some room.
Sure.
But man, oh man, couldn't get out of it, and almost dislocated my shoulder
that's where I was
trying so hard. Yeah, so stopped there, and I was like, okay, well, that was fun, so what next? So I was like, okay, let me try to and we were trying to do things on camera too during the live streams.
Oh my God.
Remember when I was painting?
Yes.
Remember when you did my face in the straitjacket, here?
I did your makeup.
Yeah.
Based off of what people were recommending, and I was wearing the dinosaur suit.
Yes.
And I couldn't see shit, because when I sit, when I'm standing, the dinosaur face is here, the see-through part of the neck is here, but when I sit, it goes like that.
Yeah.
And all I remember was having, makeup brushes and just stabbing you.
So I was, I had the straitjacket because it was Halloween, I think, or whatever, so you did the Joker.
No, it wasn't Halloween, it was just we wanted to do something.
Close. I thought it was close to Halloween.
No, it was in April.
Oh, whatever.
No, it was in
Every
April
day is Halloween. I was I want to learn. The next thing I was going to do is I'll make a candle. I got all the stuff, and
turns out candle making is a science.
Yeah, it turns out, learn the science of it, and then all of a sudden I was like, hey, I really like this. I like doing it. I loved doing them, and I loved making them, and I started to say, like, hey, like, maybe I can sell these, and then I got my seller's permit, and we just went from there. Like, it kind of snowed. I did some small events. I was like, okay, maybe I should start vending, and I held onto an application for, like, 4 weeks, because I was all like, am I even worth it? You know, is this a thing that I can do?
Imposter syndrome, or was that just you, like, kind of working up the courage to be like, yes, my stuff is good enough, let's go?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. Like, you know, am I a candle maker? Like, can I do this? Is this stuff even good? Like, will it burn? You know, like, we buy candles from the store all the time. They're not perfect.
Yours are
sometimes, but, like, I would say, like, a candle doesn't burn perfectly all the time, like, from when you get to the store, but sometimes it does. But, you know, you have these giant manufacturers that just pump out candles.
Yeah.
You know, Yankee, Bath and Body Works, like, you know, they pump out candles to the public, and it's a quality, like, you get consistent quality, sometimes you don't. Wax is a living thing, so it acts differently sometimes. But yeah, I think I was just like, are these good enough? Like, oh my god, I'm making somebody pay $20 for this candle. As a consumer myself, if I'm paying an amount of money, I want to make sure that it looks like that's $20.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like,
because what's the first thing that anyone does when they come up to the booth? They pop that top off, they look at it, and they smell it.
Yep.
Your packaging, your presentation is selling your product.
Yeah. You know, people come up and they look at them, and yes, I hand make every single candle. It's pretty much, except for, you know, some of the helpers that I've had, it's pretty much 90% of the time me drawing my mom's kitchen. Like, you know, like,
yep. The house smells good.
Yeah, the house smells great. But it's me pouring candles, you know, morning, noon, and night, sometimes getting ready for a show. And there has been times where we have sold out of something, and I've had to call, like, my mom, thank God that she's, you know, available, being retired now, but going like, Mom, I need you to go to a store, get every single jar that this person has, bring them
back to the house. We gotta make candles when we get home.
Because I gotta make candles overnight, and I've gotten home at like 10 o'clock at night, melted down wax, poured it, and then made all these new candles.
It's still kind of cooling by the time we take it in.
Got up at 5 in the morning, finished off the tops, labeled them up, put them in a box, and like taken them back to the convention. And I think that's just life of a vendor sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, but it was, man, that was one of those things where we're like, oh crap, we gotta make more.
We gotta make more. So I'm always striving. I have always been somewhat a perfectionist. I have scrapped things. Mm-hmm. I have dug out wax.
So
my mother puts up with so much.
How has it been cat branding your products?
Oh my god, that's been so much fun. To see where we started in 2020 selling, and to see where we are now, and how we've evolved it to be like this just feral cat brand and have like cats on everything, has been just absolutely stunning and amazing. And I'm so glad that I have an amazing selling partner to like kind of bounce ideas off of you, and you come up with designs and going like, how do you like this? How do you like this? Mm-hmm.
What are your top three, just first three things that come to your mind when you think of favorite things that you have made, even if it's seasonal?
I love the lingonberry spice. I love the apple sage is one of my favorite. And the my absolute like top though is the harvest.
Which one? The double blend that you made?
Double blend that I make, the autumn harvest one.
It's so good.
With that little bit of spice.
Yeah.
Is amazing. Any of our cauldrons with the lemongrass sage, the apple sage, or the blackberry sage, they're all amazing. And then that autumn harvest is like something that I could smell all day.
Come Midsummer Scream time and everyone's looking for their fall candles, we can't hold on to that stuff. You know? Like, we can't hold on to the harvest candles. We can't hold on to pumpkin stuff. That's just the nature of the game. But I think it's incredible to seeing it go from, we want to make dirty orphan fog candles, to, you know, we've got our own kind of branded lines now that people go, hey, do you have, you know, Sakura scent anymore? Do you have the harvest scent? Or, what's Feral 3? Well, Feral 3 is lingonberry. That's only during Christmas time. You have to wait till Christmas to be able to get it.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, even, I know we have those harvest candles, but the holiday candles, the season screaming candle, the holidays ones, I've never come back with one.
Nope.
Never come back with one. Those holiday scents are so good.
They're so good.
In fact, I ran into a friend today at work, and she was just like, hey, you guys going to be at Midsummer? Because I only have one candle left. And I was like, yeah, dude. And I was all like, but I was... even if you guys stop by the booth to say hi and don't buy anything,
it's fine.
I'm totally good with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
I like just, when we go out vending, I just love talking with people and, hearing their stories sometimes, even if I don't know them. I don't care if you buy anything.
No.
I mean,
yeah.
I would love you to.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take any... there's any offense.
We don't take offense if you just want to come up and say hi, or if you just,
smell every single. I've had people smell every single candle and be at the table for 10 minutes and then walk off. And I'm all,
it's the nature of the beast. That's and that's okay.
I don't care.
And I think that shows a lot of, again, you go back to patience, a lot of patience and emotional maturity on your part to be like, it's not anything personal. It's just, you do what you do and you move on.
Spend your money how you want to spend your money.
And again, sometimes supporting your friends isn't, hand over fist to be like, oh, I will buy all of your products. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just coming up and be like, hey, it's cool to see you guys here. And you're like, thanks, because you worked your ass off to get there.
Yeah.
Feral cat candles, haunt characters, D&D, music-loving kid, only child, now has a huge family, you're welcome. And part of, that family aspect of it is you inherited my little brother.
Mm-hmm.
Mike is one of your best friends, and you guys, we all started Fractured Compass together, and that grew and that snowballed and that became the beast that it became. Mm-hmm. And, COVID kind of took a hit on us. I mean, it took a hit on everybody, but it took a hit on our channel. And we did change things around, and now it's kind of moving in a different direction, but I think the direction that it's moving into, aside from me finally pulling the trigger on the series that I've wanted to do for a while, it's going to be changing. So where do you see the future of Fractured Compass going with everybody that's involved with it?
So the future of it is that and the reality of it is we cannot go out to every single event every day and cover events that we want to. Now, for me, I was kind of getting burned out just a little bit because it's exhausting. It's exhausting to go out and be first and do all these things. And there's a whole lot better channels out there that have gained a huge following. And that go out to Disney and Universal and all the theme parks every single day, and they do amazing coverage. But it is a grind, and so. But for me, I wanted to be involved in these things, and when you become involved with certain things, you run into what are called NDA clauses, and contracts. Yep. So you are not allowed to talk, you can talk about the surface stuff of what has already been released, and we still do. But I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and take this down to once a month. Let's go out and do events, sit on it for, a week or two, come together, talk about it, do a once a month podcast, and we'll invite people on to get their opinion. I want to hear other people's voices other than mine, coming through the television.
It's also just nice to have someone else banter with.
Yeah, absolutely is, because you get new perspectives. You, me, and Mike have been together for so long. We kind of know each other's feelings about certain things. We know what we like and we know what we dislike. So let's have that guest speaker on, every month and get new perspectives, because it creates that conversation. You get that new gene in the gene pool.
Keeping the line healthy.
Yeah, keeping the line healthy. We just had Tamara on, and we put that up. It was
so much fun. God, having her was so much fun.
Having people listen to, we try not to make it too long, for the podcast, at least, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah, we went a little over because it was just really good conversation, and we weren't going to stop it, but that definitely is going to be the future of it, and doing this, but we're still going to be out there.
Yeah, we'll still be out there doing stuff, and Again, we're vending a lot of the things that we used to go cover.
Guys,
so
we're like so involved with things.
Yeah. How do you feel about social responsibility and having a visible online presence and a visible in-person presence? You know, how do you feel about that?
I think it's very important. And I think I'm kind of glad that I started doing this and being more out there actually later. I feel like you're, at 20 years old, you're still trying to find yourself. And you're still trying to figure out how to act. But being older, I take great responsibility in being, I'm not gonna say like I'm a public figure. I'm not. So, if I do something that could hurt somebody and laugh about it and get away with it, then another person's gonna probably think, or another kid watching is gonna try to do the same thing. Yeah. Like, well, they're laughing, they got away with it, nothing happened, no consequence. So there is a great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. As cliche as it is, it's 100% true.
As cliche as it is, it's 100% true, and we have to be very mindful about how we act in public, because even nowadays, just saying certain things can get dug up on the internet.
Yeah, the internet is so forever.
Yeah, in one moment that you weren't thinking about how you were presenting yourself in public.
Yeah.
And
I'm also the firm believer that people absolutely are allowed to make mistakes, and you're allowed to learn and grow from them. That's why I do have a problem with cancel culture. But it's been an interesting journey watching you take on not only just something that you wanted to do initially for fun, and it has been for fun, but something that you took seriously of, I am being watched by people that we don't see who our subscribers are unless it's public. Mm-hmm. Oh, babies. She smacked her head. And you took that duty very seriously in being able to go out to these places and do things with respect and with a sense of dignity and a sense of honor, and I don't see that a lot nowadays, and I want to commend you for being able to always maintain who you truly are at the core and maintain your personal character while still going out and doing the things that you love to do.
Well, I think that also has a lot to do with, one, how I was raised. Mm-hmm. I was raised around adults. You respect adults. You respect, you act a certain way. And then two, being in martial arts, you respect your instructors, you respect your masters, your grandmasters. Like, it's all just this, I think from day one down to now, it has always been like, you are respectful and you present yourself a certain way. Mm-hmm. And never make anybody ashamed of you, Yeah. And that's just been me. I don't know if that's, somebody's gonna watch this and like, wow, that's a lot to take on for yourself, like not making a mistake. But I'm gonna tell you, I have made tons of mistakes, but again, I've just learned from them.
Double PhD at the School of Hard Knocks.
I'd be like, and if people go like, well, like, man, you just act so perfect, it's because I made a lot of mistakes, kids.
So here's my last question before we wrap this up. You can only have one for the rest of your life.
M&M's.
That's not a question, but great. I love M&M's. I'm totally happy with that answer.
I'm just kidding.
That's it. You can only have one for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. Cats or dogs?
Oh, no.
I had to. I'm sorry. Riley
I was in the car today coming home going like, am I a cat person or a dog person? Like, and I don't know why I was thinking that.
You knew, because I was looking at that question probably right around the same time you were driving home, and I was going like, she's gonna hate me for this one. You can only have one for the rest of your life, cats or dogs.
No.
You have to choose.
Riley.
So are you choosing dogs, or are you choosing only Riley?
Oh, no.
Because if you doom me to only have Riley for the rest of my life, that means in 10 years when she's not here anymore, I can't have another dog and you can't have another dog.
Then we just have to have a cat.
No, that's not how it works.
To be honest with you, okay, and I thought about it. And I thought about what I want to do in life and stuff, like, cause my life's not over.
You're gonna say cats, aren't you?
I'm a cat person. I love Riley.
She's the goodest girl.
Riley freaking love
Come here,
Riley.
babies.
Like,
Come here.
She is the best dog.
Come here. Hi, honey.
She's the best dog. And
good
like
girl.
I feel like we just won the golden retriever
oh my god,
lottery.
one Powerball.
Yeah.
With you.
With her. But
sleepy face.
with that said, I have had other dogs. And I have had other dogs like in my life. And they have not been the greatest.
All dogs are good dogs.
Yeah. But I have had other cats, and I've had some cats that have been a little mean.
Same.
Not crazy. But, you know, they've been like, but the thing is like, cats don't need you 24/7. You know? You can leave for a day, a whole day, and they'll be fine.
And you're just heartbroken when we leave her home, huh?
I want to take her, like, everywhere that we can take her. There are days when I'm like, babe, can we just take the dog?
Yes,
can we take the dog?
Can.
Like,
yes, we can.
Everywhere we can take Riley, because we put a lot of money into training her.
Yeah, we did, but she's just a good girl.
For service, but, like, everywhere that we can take her, she's there. And you guys know, if you come vending...
You scruffy muffin. You don't even know there's a dog under the table.
Yeah, she is working, but she's there. And
so
like,
you're choosing cats?
I choose cats, but I mean, like, I choose Riley 100%, but
That's good. So you can have cats and I'll choose dogs, and then we balance each other.
But overall, if I were to, like, if Riley were to, you know, heaven forbid.
When the inevitable happens, but not for a while.
Yeah, when the inevitable happens, like, I would.
But not for a while.
I would, like, be like, oh, well, I'll have a cat, you know?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get a cat. Just because, like, again, they don't need me. And, like, I do like to travel.
Does she need you?
I know. But a dog needs you.
Yeah.
A dog needs you. You have to feed, you have to feed the dog. You have to let the dog out to go to the bathroom. Like, it's a great responsibility to have a dog.
You don't poop in boxes.
No.
You don't poop in boxes. All right.
So, yeah.
I think that's it.
Overall, I'd have to choose cats.
Traitor.
But really.
I love you. Let's go to bed. I'm tired.
I know.
Cut.